Hey there, how's it going? This is Seth from REtipster.com. In this video, I'm going to show you a super important service that I use whenever I am pulling lists of motivated sellers that I can send mail to so that I can then make an offer to purchase their property. The purpose of this video is just to show you some of the ways that you can use DataTree to create that list, filter it to include just the right people that you want, and then download it and start working with it, start sending them mail. So when you get to the DataTree homepage, it's going to look something like this. By the way, we actually do have a affiliate partnership with DataTree, and there's special pricing you can get. That's like a nice discount off the normal price if you go through the REtipster affiliate link. And I'm going to have a link to that landing page right beneath this video. So if you want to check it out and get some nice discount pricing on it, feel free to do that. But let's go ahead and log in here. So first and foremost, whenever you start working with any data service, whether it be DataTree or otherwise, it's really important before you actually download a list to make sure that the data you're using is actually updated, current, and accurate to the extent possible. Some services make it super easy to verify this. Some services don't allow you to do this at all, which I think is crazy. DataTree does allow you to do it, and I believe they're working on making this a little bit more clear-cut and easier to find this info. But for now, at the time of this recording, one way to do this is to first of all decide on which state and county that you're going to be sending mail to. And by the way, whenever I send out mail, I'm always doing it on a county by county basis. So in my case, I would go ahead and pick the state. For the sake of this example, I will go to the state of Florida. Then we'll do Orange County. That's where Orlando is. And then I'm just going to pick any random name that I think is going to be present in this county. So we'll do Smith. It's a pretty common name. It's going to bring up, probably a number of different results. And it looks like we got too many. We'll go ahead and view all results here. And all I have to do is click on any one of these. It doesn't really matter which one, because all I'm looking for in here is to see the date that the information was last updated. And we can see that right here. And as you'll see, there's actually a few different databases in every single county. There's one that has all of the deed information, one for all the mortgages, assignments, releases, and pre-foreclosure. And really the one that I'm most concerned with is the deeds, because that's going to show who currently owns all of these properties and what their mailing addresses are. And we can see that the last recorded date for this particular database was October 5, 2018. And as I'm recording this, it's October 22, 2018. So this tells me that the information was last updated just a little over 2 weeks ago, which to me is good enough. I usually want the data to be no more than 1 month old, and there's nothing magical about that number, like 30 days or anything, but just as like a standard practice, I don't want to be working with data that's like 6 months old or a year old or 10 years old, because that's way too old. And usually if it's updated within the past month, I can be pretty sure that the information is going to be reasonably current and accurate and up to date. So once we know that, we're going to go over here and click on Advanced Search. And then it's going to bring up a window that looks like this. And again, like I said, I'm always searching by the state and the county. So this is what I would do. And keep in mind, if you wanted to search for like multiple counties at a time, you can include as many counties as you want. Depending on what your purposes and goals are for your direct mail campaign, you may want to do more of these. But again, I'm always just doing it on a county by county basis. I'm just doing Florida and Orange County. So I'll find that. And now as you go through this list, you'll see a lot of different options here on how you can start filtering your list. And I'm not here to tell you that there's one right way to filter it, because it totally depends on what kinds of properties and property owners you're trying to contact. So for example, in my business, the type of property owner that I'm trying to contact is people who own rural vacant land. So just to give you an example, if I was going after vacant land like I typically do, I would basically skip this entire first section, because all I'm looking for are the vacant landowners where the properties are in Orange County, Florida. So none of this stuff has to be entered in. In terms of characteristics, now this is where it does start to matter. At least this is the kind of stuff that I want to start paying a lot more attention to. One thing I can do is, say if I was trying to go specifically after smaller residential lots, then I would just have to go ahead and find some of those properties in here. Like for example, mobile home lot would be a perfect fit, or a vacant mobile home would be another option possibly. Vacant land, That would work too. Residential lots, perfect. Residential acreage, recreational acreage, that works as well. You kind of get the idea. And keep in mind, another way that I can go about this if I wanted to scratch the land use version is to go to the county land use. And if I actually know what the use codes are in this particular county, I can start entering those. This one usually requires a little bit more knowledge of the county system, so I typically don't do that one. I could also go for the zoning and do it that way, or I could also do it under site influence. So there's several different ways to skin the cat, so to speak. You just have to pick one that works for you. So I'll go back here and start picking these back out again. Then once I'm happy with that, you can also go down here and start specifying the sizes of the properties that you're looking for. So for example, I only want properties that are between like 10 and 100 acres. And keep in mind, if you were looking for a list of like single family houses or something like that, there's a lot of other options here that would pertain to you. Like for example, if you don't want properties with pools, you could click on no. If you do want properties with a certain number of garage spaces, you can do that here as well. If you're only looking for like multifamily properties, you can do that kind of thing here too. I'm not doing that for my list, but again, you know who you are and you know what kinds of property owners you're looking for. So the more specific you can be about the people you're trying to contact, the more targeted and effective your list is going to be on the back end. So keep going down here. If there were any specifics about the types of owners I was looking for, I could do that here. I've never really used this stuff in terms of like owner ethnicity or anything like that. One thing I can say is that owner occupied is one that I have used a ton because, you know, just statistically speaking, when a property owner is an absentee owner, meaning they don't actually live in the property itself, they're probably going to be a lot more willing to sell that kind of property at a deep discount as opposed to an owner-occupied owner, somebody who actually like lives in the property themselves. Because if you just kind of use your common sense, you know, chances are somebody's going to be less willing to sell the roof over their head for pennies on the dollar versus an investment property that they probably have less of an emotional connection to. So that's something that I use a lot, is absentee owner. Something else that can be really helpful is not only specifying absentee owners, but also only mailing to owners who are out of state or even people who are out of county. And the reason that's kind of helpful is because going back to the whole emotional connection thing, if somebody like lives right next to the property that they own, say if they have a rental property right next door that they're seeing all the time, again, somebody in that situation is probably going to be less likely to sell that for pennies on the dollar as opposed to somebody who owns a rental property in another state or even in another county that they rarely see with their own eyes. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind. So if you do want to filter your properties to include only people who live out of state or out of county, all you'd have to do is say mailing state is not, and then click on Florida. So basically, if the property owner is located in Florida, they're not going to be included on the list. And you could also say something like the mailing state is in Florida, but the mailing county is not Orange County. So this is going to be people who are in Florida, but they're not necessarily in the same county, which means they probably don't see it that frequently. It's less likely to be something that they're driving past every single day. And I will tell you that a lot of the people that I end up buying properties for pennies on the dollar, they do actually live in the same state, but they don't live in the same county. So I think for me, that's something that's been really, really effective. And certainly out-of-state owners is very effective as well. But usually when you narrow it down that much, your list ends up being really, really small. But if you're willing to keep them in the same state, your list probably will be a lot bigger and will still have a lot of those motivated sellers in it. At least that's what my experience has been. And then going down here, you could also specify based on owners who are or are not in the same city or zip code. Again, I haven't really messed with that much, but I could see how it might be helpful in some cases. And then financing information, I don't really ever use this stuff either. However, I can see in some cases if you were looking for properties that were owned free and clear and did not have a mortgage on them, that could potentially be a helpful thing to know, because usually if somebody doesn't have a mortgage, that means they have a lot more equity or like 100% equity to play with, which essentially means they actually have the ability to sell for a lot less than somebody who has a mortgage balance and they have to worry about paying that off as part of the sale. So that can be a helpful thing. Say if you wanted to specify that the mortgage amount is 0. And I will say, I believe the way this works is this is based on when that particular owner bought it. So say if somebody had a mortgage originally and then they paid it off, I don't think that would really be reflecting here. This is only if they paid cash back when they bought it and did not have a mortgage. So that's just one little detail to keep in mind. It may not be 100% accurate if they had a mortgage at one point and then they paid it off. I'm not sure if this actually updates that. And then there's all kinds of other stuff you can include here as well, including like liens that are outstanding, interest rate, deed type. I mean, lots of stuff that, again, I don't mess with, but it's there if you can think of a applicable purpose in your list. And then equity value, again, if you wanted to have properties with 100% equity, you can specify that here. Usually with vacant land properties, people are not getting loans on those in the first place. So this particular item is kind of a given because like they have to own it 100%. Like there's not an option to get a loan. So with a vacant land list like what I'm doing, this isn't really that helpful or necessary to include. But if you were doing some kind of like list for houses or other types of properties that would be more likely to have a loan and you want to screen those people out of your list, this is one way to do that. Down here, there's a bunch of different types of values available here. And going back to the whole issue of the county's database, some counties may have like these items complete in their database, but not these. Or maybe they would have like these, but not these. So I think in some ways this kind of clutters it up a little bit because it gives you a lot of options and it's hard to know like, okay, which ones are actually available in the particular county's database that I'm working with right now. So usually what I would do is just go right here to where it says market value and just enter in your numbers here. So say if I only want market values between 10,000 and 100,000, that's the way that I could specify that. And down here, foreclosure information. I don't really have this available for the plan that I've got, but if you did want to pay more and have more of these details, you could certainly do that. And then HOA liens. This is something, I don't know how accurate this is because a lot of times HOAs can like fly under the radar. They don't necessarily keep the county records like up to speed on what's actually going on. But if you did want to specify, say like only the ones that have a public HOA lien on record, you could select this as well. But just given the inherent lack of reliability for HOAs nationwide, I'm not going to mess with that. So once you got that, all you have to do is go up here to get count and see what the count is. And this is saying 0, and the reason it's saying 0 is because somewhere along the lines here, one or more of these filtering criteria is throwing things out of whack, probably because this county's database just doesn't have that information. And when I'm telling it to filter it based on information it doesn't have, it's going to show me 0 results. So to try to rectify this, what I have to do is go back and start removing some of these filtering criteria and clicking get count again to see if that fixes the issue. So I'll start with this one, see if that does anything here. Click get count. Okay, so that was not it. Let's go ahead and put that back in there. Let's try this one, equity. Get rid of that. Get count again. Okay, still no results. Maybe I'll try to take both of these out and do get count, see if that fixes it. There we go. Okay. So it looks like one or both of those things was kind of messing things up. You'll see that this list is kind of small, and that actually makes sense because Orange County is a pretty densely populated area. I actually probably wouldn't normally be looking for vacant lots in Orange County at all because it's not rural enough. Usually what I would be doing is looking at some of the more rural counties around Orange County, but not Orange County itself. So given the county that I picked and the specifics of the types of property owners that I'm willing to accept here, that final list is pretty small. Something else I could do here is find a different county. We'll try Lee County and we'll do get count again and see what this tells us. Okay, so we've got more results there now. And also since I changed the county up there, I should probably also go and change it down here to this whole out of county thing that I was trying to do. Click on that, try get count again. So you kind of get the idea. The more you mess around with this and the more you see what it can do, it's pretty easy to just figure out how many people are on that list and whether or not that's a good enough number for you. One side note that I'll point out is that 76 leads is actually a very, very, very small campaign. I don't think I've ever actually sent out one that's that tiny. That just happens to be what the total count is given this filtering criteria that I laid out here. Usually when I'm doing direct mail campaigns, I'm looking at sending like a minimum of 300-ish, and an average number would be closer to like 500 to 800 to maybe 1,000 mailers per campaign. And if this is your first time ever doing direct mail to find motivated sellers for real estate, I think like it's not impossible to find results with a campaign this small, but just keep in mind, like this is very, very tiny. I'd say more of a normal number for me anyway, for what I do, is like several hundred mailers, maybe even 1,000 or more. So just wanted to mention that as we're doing this. Once you're satisfied with all this information and you're ready to go ahead and download your list, just go ahead and click on view results, and it'll actually like show you all the results, and you can go through here one by one. As you'll see, there's like a few here that are duplicates. Like this particular owner happens to own 3 properties in this county. And in those cases, I'm probably not going to be sending 3 mailers to them just because they own 3. So if you want to do this the long way, you can go through all these individually and like uncheck the ones that are duplicates. However, there's actually an even easier way to do this once it comes time to export your list. When you click here on export, DataTree is really nice, and they give you an option right here to just click remove duplicate owners, and then that automatically takes out all those duplicates, which is awesome. That was something that was really tedious. I used to have to spend tons of time going line by line to delete those duplicates from some of the other data services out there, and DataTree gives you a really easy way to do that. In terms of exporting the file, usually what I'm doing is either an Excel-friendly CSV file or just a XLSX file. So either one of those will work with Microsoft Excel, and that is the spreadsheet software that I use to whittle this list down a little bit further before it gets to the stage of actually sending out the mail, which we'll talk about in the next video. Once that's done, we can go over here and just check this one right there. Then you also have to go over here and name the file. So really just whatever you want to name it so that you don't forget what it is. I might put like the month and the year that I'm downloading this. Go ahead and do that, and then we'll click order. Then it goes ahead and it downloads that file. Then we can open it with Microsoft Excel here, and then this is our file here. Expand this a little bit, and as you'll see, it kind of looks like just this bizarre mess of data. It's kind of confusing to look at, especially if you've never seen anything like this before, but it's actually really, really easy to work with. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how to go through this list and sort it properly, and how to figure out which ones you actually need, which ones you can delete and just do away with, and how to bring this on to the next step of getting ready to send out your mailers to this list of property owners. I will say again, if you do want to check out DataTree, REtipster.com does have an affiliate relationship with them, so we get a teeny tiny commission every time somebody goes through our link to sign up for that. However, more importantly for you, if you go through our link and only our link, you're going to get a nice discount off the normal price of the service, and that link is retipster.com/DataTree. And again, that link is right beneath this video. If you're watching this on YouTube, check out the notes beneath this video. If you're watching this on retipster.com, we're going to have the link right beneath this video right there on the page. And yeah, feel free to check it out. At the time of this recording, this is what our special landing page looks like, and these are the different prices you can see. Now, in terms of which one you want to sign up for, they all basically charge on a per parcel basis for which of these services you end up using. So if you think you're going to be pulling like a lot of lists and a lot of data, then the more you pay per month, the cheaper everything is going to cost whenever you actually use the service. A couple important things worth noting here is that, first of all, each one of these plans are set up as drawdowns against the monthly fee. So for example, with the gold plan, each time you pull a report or a list, or you use any one of these services here, it's going to count against the $147 that you paid in that particular month. So for example, the property characteristics export, that's what you'd have to pay per lead when you're downloading a list like what I just showed you. So if you were to download a list of 1,000 leads under the gold plan, the cost of that would basically be $60 against this $147 that you paid. And as soon as you reach the point where you exceed the credits that you're allotted, then it would just start charging you in addition to this monthly fee based on what these prices are here. So just keep in mind that's how that works. And obviously if you're going to be using these other services, those would cost more depending on which one ones you use and how often you use them. And all these plans require a 12-month commitment, which is actually pretty standard in the data services industry. Not every company requires that, but most of them do. The way this works is whichever one of these you choose, you'll have to fill out your information and submit it, and then somebody from DataTree will contact you to make sure that you're actually signing up for the exact type of service you want with all the costs that you're expecting. So that's how that works. As you can see, it's a very useful service with lots of different filtering options. I hope you find it really beneficial. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.